Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For those of you joining me for the first time, I'm Nolly Gonzalez and you should definitely subscribe as I talk plenty of writer and book stuff. I have been on hiatus for a bit because I had a baby, so for my fellow writers and friends who've been with me for a while, thank you so much for your patience while I was bringing my daughter into the world and enjoying that time with my family. But enough about me, though I can go on for a while. Today I want to talk about your writing and how we're going to avoid that dreaded info dump that seems nearly impossible to escape. But what the hell is an info dump? For those unfamiliar with the term, it pertains to an unnecessarily large chunk of writing in your story with the goal of sharing information with the reader. This usually happens with magic systems, over descriptions, and or backstories of people, places, or things. Info dumps are ineffective because it's the author's way of telling the reader how everything works or what something is, instead of allowing the reader to learn that as the story progresses. It's a classic show versus tell, but to the extreme. This is a problem because it comes off as if you don't believe the reader is smart enough to figure it out on their own unless you explain things to them in full detail. When it comes to backstories or magic systems, your writing can go from being a story to being a history lesson on things or characters your reader isn't even interested in yet. So how do we fix this while still providing the necessary info? I'm glad you asked. Remember, I'm sharing my methods, but tell me in the comments what works for you. It'll not only open a positive discussion, but it'll help our fellow writers find ideal ways to avoid info dump. Now let's get to it. First, I want to make clear that if you dump info into your first draft, you don't have to freak out. You can always fix it later in revisions. But if you're still in the brainstorming outlining phase, or if you're just pantsing and you want to avoid dumping as much as possible, keep these few things in mind. First, how important to the character or story is this information? Do we and the other characters need to know that character A grew up an orphan bounty hunter assassin, or that the streets they lived on were cold and ruthless? Not right away, no. Instead, decide how relevant the info is to each scene and the characters in it in order to reveal what's truly important. Moving on to the second thing to keep in mind, people don't overshare when they first meet someone. Well, usually. Once I was at the bus stop with my son and a woman approached us, told me how much she liked kids and even worked at a daycare. Until she was fired. But it wasn't her fault, it's just that her boss didn't like her because the boss's boyfriend or husband made a pass at her. So unless your character is a weirdo or a drama fiend, there's no need to drop their life story on unsuspecting people. Moving on to tip number 3, do note that the character's personality and history affects what, how, and when they share information. One character can be a chatterbox and talk about everything else but themselves, occasionally having a slip of information at random. Or perhaps they never talk and only share information when they behave out of character, like when they're drunk or angry. But keep in mind to keep it limited to that character's perspective. Everyone has biases, so events will be shared in the way they made the character feel. Moving on to point number 4. Now, assuming your story allows it, have the info shared from a different perspective. This doesn't have to be done via dialogue, by the way. For example, character A can tell character B they hate mermaids because they once tried to drown them as a kid. But later on, character B could come across a diary written by character C, who was present at the mentioned event. Character C's diary can reveal that character A had actually tripped into the water, and the mermaid had scratched him while trying to save his life. This way, we discover the truth along with character B, instead of being told directly by either character A or C. And last but not least, point number 5. Don't share this info in the first chapter. Maybe not even in the first half of the first act. Why? Because the reader isn't likely to remember it. I already mentioned to analyze which scenes are relevant to put information in, but in the very beginning is not the best place, unless you refer to it often. It's possible to have happened to you too, but I've read a few books where some big reveal is made in the middle or near the end of the story, and I'm just scratching my head and wondering what the hell they're talking about. But if you finish your story and it hits you that you forgot something, don't spaz. Like I said, you can fix it later when editing. This is just the first draft after all. It doesn't have to be as perfect as you yet, but that's all I've got for you this time. Did I cover this topic well enough? Did I miss it completely? Do you find info dumps useful? I want to know your opinion on the matter, so leave a comment. Tell me how you feel about info dumps and writers who use them, and suggest any writing topics for future videos. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more videos on writing. Click the little bell so you're always notified when I drop new content, as well as follow me on social media at Nolly Gonzalez, so we can be internet friends. As always, thanks for watching, writers. Until next time.